Hello, everyone, and welcome to the new year. It is January 14th, 2023. Now I'm your co-host, The Fat Wizard, joined today by...
Alamaxia.
And Lobos.
And today we're taking a look at Metroid Prime on the GameCube. This was originally released in North America November 18th, 2002, and it is Samus's first foray into 3D.
Whoa.
Gentlemen, how did it go for you? Let's start with Lobos, because Alamax, we already know that you love the heck out of this game.
Oh, yes.
Nice. By the end of the playthrough, it was I had all the feelings that I normally have on a Metroid game. So I was like, yes, this seems right. I had a couple little gripes here and there, like controls-wise, and some things were changed that I missed and that sort of thing. But overall, loved it, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in detail.
Yeah, I mirror some of your similar feelings there. Where it's like I had moments of greatness where I was like, this is truly amazing. And then I had moments of jumping, hitting my head on the ceiling, falling, 50, 100 feet and being like, oh. But Alamaxia, give it to me. How much do you love this game?
This was over my 10th time through it. I even did half of a randomizer run just gearing up for this. I love this game. I love everything about it. Yes, the controls can be wonky. There are some tricks with the controls that can make it a lot easier. But just the progression of the game, the story, it's just the first 3D Metroid. I've always loved the series, and whenever this happened, I was fully hooked.
Nice.
All the way.
Nice. What's great about this is, it is the first 3D, but Samus is still great on 2D. So it's kind of like, hey, 3D, yeah. 2D, give me Metroid however you want, and I'll play it, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So Alamaxia, I'm hoping that you might be able to bridge the gap between the previous Metroids, because, I enjoy my Metroids, but I don't think I really understand the lore or the chronology. Can you articulate kind of like where we are from Super Metroid, because that's kind of the big one that everyone knows, right?
Yeah, so Planet ZBs was blown up, but the space pirates retained some of the Metroids, and they were trying to turn them into weapons. And throughout scanning some planets, they discovered this planet, Talon 4, which had a huge energy signature at the core of it, which you later you learned that is a meteorite which crashed into the planet and brought a lot of bad stuff with it. So Space Pirates started researching the bad stuff, and what Samus is doing right here is attacking one of their research facilities. I think it's many years, like 10 years or so before, well, the Space Pirates landed here, I think like 10 years before Samus is here, kind of, attacking the research facility. But she's trying to stop them.
As she always does. So yeah, we're starting off in... Now, is this like a moon above Talon, or is it a research facility above Talon, or like where are we?
We're on a Space Pirate research facility, and it's the same research facility that you go through in the game. This one crashes into the planet.
Oh, I didn't realize
the
that.
derelict frigate.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Okay,
yeah,
man, I should have picked that up, but that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. So you kind of go in here. This is your tutorial. It's everyone likes to call this the abilities. They're you teasing the abilities you'll get. But you have like your standard fare. You got your morph ball. You got your bombs, missiles, whatever. And you fight this parasite queen. She has basically just this revolving shield with these large openings. I think it's really just kind of teaching you like, hey, this is how you kind of shoot while moving and strafe back and forth.
And also,
but yeah,
how to scan to unlock potential new lock-on points and that sort of thing.
Yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about the visor and the HUD here, Lobos, while we're talking? We're kind of watching this thing blow up.
Yeah, this is scanning the video game, depending on how you play it, Do you have to 100% scan in order to get the 100% ending? Or
you have to 100% scan the red ones. The red ones
so that's
are
considered all the lore and stuff.
Yeah, the
right?
red ones are considered like these are your Chozo entries, the pirate data entries, and then you do have to find all the upgrades, expansions.
Cool. But yeah, it's 3D, so you can look around and you can find little icons that are like nodes that you can scan. You can learn about lore stuff. You can use it to interact with, switches or buttons or turn this and off and on. And so the
You
Parasite
have to do
Queen...
it through the scan visor, right? Because
Yeah.
there's a couple different visors. There's the
Right,
combat
right.
one, and then the scan one.
Yeah. And on this, you just press left on the left joystick, and then that will change from combat mode to visor mode, or scan visor, rather. And then you can use left trigger to scan everything that you want. And all the enemies you can scan, and you can learn things about them, like weaknesses potentially. So it comes in handy quite a bit.
Yeah,
They
it's
put
really good.
so much work into the world of this game. They built a great world, and the fact that you can scan literally everything, like the doors, you can be like, oh, this door is locked, or this is a normal beam
flowers
door.
even.
Yeah, the grass, the little grass.
Everything is so
I'll tell you what, I am definitely one of those completionists, and so cutting together the footage of this game was a little challenging, just because whenever I first faced a new monster or a boss, immediately I'm scanning it. So it's like I kind of have to cut that out, because it's not very fun to look at. But I was very much like, I got to scan everything, do everything. I want to talk a little bit about the intro to the game here. So of course you have the little tutorial area. All your abilities go away, and you basically have you're just your basic spacesuit. But it's moments like this I really kind of wish I was a huge fan of, like Metroid and Super Metroid, and then waiting for like the midnight release on Metroid Prime, because you come down with your spaceship onto Talon 4, and it's just such an iconic thing of kind of like being out in the jungly forest thing and coming out of your ship. And I think I would, as a kid, like if I would have seen that, I'd be like, oh my god, this is amazing.
Yes, there is definitely just the tingly warm feels whenever Samus comes out and you hear that familiar just little piece of music. You're like, this is it.
Yeah, and it's in 3D and the GameCube.
Adventure. Yeah, I will say big props to the game, because like the graphics and a lot of the tech they use here is like, it looks so good for, it holds up compared to some other games, from that era.
And a GameCube. I mean, a GameCube. This holds up well against all the other systems out there.
Yeah. Now, so let's talk a little bit about when this was released, because I think that really matters when you're talking about controls. So I think it was GoldenEye was it 98, 99, somewhere around there, 2000, it doesn't matter too much, but you had GoldenEye, which you had just one movement stick. You didn't have the dual analog. And then you had this game, and they still didn't have the dual analog, right? And then you had Halo. I actually can't remember if Halo came out slightly before this. I think it did. But in any case, like Halo was the game that kind of defined the dual analog. So unfortunately, Metroid Prime doesn't have that dual analog. So the way it works is you got your movement on the left analog, and then unfortunately, your weapon swap is what they use for the other analog, so the right analog stick. The way that you... Yeah. The C stick, right? The little tiny nub, the yellow nub.
Yeah.
And then to look up and down, it's like one of the right triggers you pull, and you can look up and down. So it's a little challenging. I will say the auto targeting is generally pretty good. It kind of locks onto things above or below you, and can kind of shoot, but occasionally it doesn't quite get you what you want. So that's one of those things where it's like, oh man, I really want to see what this game plays like with dual analogs. But I know, Alamaxia, you played a little bit of this on the Wii, because they remade this for the Wii. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about how those controls felt here.
When I first played the Wii controls, which I originally played, back on Metroid Prime 3 Corruption when they were introduced, but the way the controls work is you have your nunchuck and your Wiimote, and your nunchuck, you have just your joystick, moves you forward, back, strafe, left, right. Lock on is on there, and you also flick the nunchuck to use your grappling hook. And the way you aim,
which was pretty awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, and the way you aimed with your Wiimote is you aimed at the screen, and instead of your reticle being in the center of the screen, your reticle was where you were aiming, so you could shoot in your peripheral, which I thought was really cool. And then to turn, or look up, down, look left, right, you just move your aiming reticle far enough to that side. And at the time, I was like, "This is the next generation of like first-person controls." Because I loved how I could, be moving around, be focusing on my platforming, but there's something attacking me on a platform up to the right. Still focus on my platforming and shoot them. It's so fun.
Yeah.
But they were
So-
a bit difficult to try to get back into after so many years of other controls being ingrained in me.
I'll quickly add that
Exactly.
many people were telling me about the Metroid Prime hack that a lot of people use to play with mouse and keyboard on PC on emulator.
That would be so
That-
good.
It also has up res and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
people say it's they can't go back to the original because it's so good that way.
I almost
So
feel
that'd
like
be
that would
interesting.
make the game too easy because
It
I
might
think so
be,
too.
yeah.
I think so too. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think the game isn't super difficult. Anyways, I know there's a hard mode, but I could see that.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about where we went from the ship. So that is if I get my area names right, that is the Talon overworld. And it's kind of small, but it's almost it links up a couple different areas. And so the first area you're going to go to, I believe, is called the Chosen Ruins. right?
Chozo Ruins.
Chozo Ruins, thank you. And this is kind of a dusty, sandy area that looks like, I don't know, ancient temples
Yeah.
or, whatever that you're kind of going through here. And we already picked up the missile launcher, and that's going to allow you to open up some of the doors. And then we just fought a boss here that required us to get behind him and shoot him in his weak spot because it's kind of this armored beetle guy. And so you have to strafe around him, shoot his red weak spot. Once you kill him, you get the morph ball. And I do want to comment real quick on the morph ball because I saw a lot of people are like, "Hey, how does Samus live in that condensing the little morph ball?" And I find it funny. I want to talk about the lore a bit later on, but one of the lore entries actually talks about the space pirates trying to figure out how that works and with unfortunate results. to
Yeah,
them.
mini casualties or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is kind of
And
funny.
they are not
they don't
returning to that research.
right. They don't explain how she can do it, but they do kind of wink and nod, be like, yeah, this isn't something that everyone can do.
Right.
It's specifically because the Chozo designed the suit because the suit was made
yes.
so that she could replicate the Chozo as closely as they could. Like the armor,
Gotcha.
was they referred to as Chozo skin or Chozo armor.
Gotcha. Cool. We just picked up, what was that, the wave beam, or did anyone catch what we got?
We got the charge beam.
Charge beam. Thank you.
This
Okay.
way, if you run out of missiles, you can still do missiles.
So it works as a missile, more or less.
Yeah, it does about the same power as a missile. So anything that
Okay.
can normally only be damaged by a missile, usually your charge beam can at least do something to it.
Cool.
What about doors? Or no?
Well, doors
Missile
never
doors?
require a charge.
No, I mean, on a missile door, can you charge beam it?
Oh, no, you can't.
If you're
no,
out of
you
missile.
can't.
Okay,
It
okay,
has to
that's
be a missile.
Gotcha.
We got to our I almost want to call this the first real boss because there's a multi-stage fight.
Mhm.
So, let's maybe have Lobos, because I know you went through this recently. Do you want to explain how this fight works?
Yeah, it's an interesting automated system that has spinning flamethrowers on the either side. You have to kind of move in the circular room as it spins in between the flamethrowers, or jump over or duck over because it'll tilt up and tilt down. And then there's these a hornet's nest above it, and you have to shoot the button on top of the device,
Flamethrower thing or whatever.
Yeah, and then it'll shoot flames up into the nest, which will spawn some hornets. You take care of them, and you do that 3 times, and then it destroys the nest and the flamethrower device, and you're like, okay, I did that.
Yeah. And you get the morph ball bomb. All right.
Morph ball
By the
bomb.
way, quick note here. We are going fast and furious. There is so much stuff to collect in this game that are absolutely critical items. So, most of this video is going to be here's a big set piece. Here's the item you get from that set piece.
Yeah.
And we're going to cover almost the full hour on just that. We're skipping out all the artifact collection. That's in some of the B-roll footage later on while we're kind of chatting. But I just want to give people a heads up. It's literally going to be bang, 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 bang. So if we're racing through, it's because there's so much. I think I had 18 hours of footage in this 1 hour episode. And just as I'm talking about, there's so much. We're at the next boss fight. Alamaxia, do you want to walk us through this one?
This is Flagra. This is the source of the corruption of the water that is plaguing Talon 4. And this is a big plant boss that loves the sun. So much, in fact, that Flagra has these dishes around it so that the dishes can focus the sun. But if you shoot one of those dishes in the back, it'll, tilt it away. And the boss is like, "Oh no, I don't have any sunlight." Falls over.
But sometimes she'll bang it back, right?
Yeah. Yes. So,
This is hilarious.
after he falls over, you go into one of these little tunnels with your morph ball. You hit this just this little morph ball spot and burns the boss. That little bridge falls down, and you keep fighting it. So it starts out with 1 mirror, then 2, then 3, then 4. But if you don't,
and the mirrors are positioned kind of equidistant from each other, so you have to traverse around the circumference of the battlefield.
Yeah, and it's a big room. You have to keep firing on the boss, and sometimes you gotta just throw a couple missiles, a charge shot in there, because if you don't stun the boss with your shots, then it'll just knock the mirror back down. Yeah. Which happens a lot once you get to the 4 mirrors, because
the 4 ones are really challenging.
Yeah, because you have to just hit 1, shoot at the boss. Hit 2 more, shoot at the boss. It's like a very, very much. It's kind of an attrition fight.
Yeah. Now, I know there is a hard mode of this game. I'm curious, Alamaxia, if you've ever explored that, and if you know, like, if it's more damage or they tighten up these fights, so you have to be like a lot quicker. Do you any idea there?
Damage.
Just damage. Okay.
Yep, damage, and I think it has fewer health drops and resource drops.
Okay. Yeah.
I used a lot of locking on and side dashing in this fight. And if you're locked onto something, you can hit B and Samus will do a quick side dash. And you can just kind of spam that, at least for now. You can spam it and Samus will just circle around her target, which is super helpful getting around the arena.
Yeah, I use the morph ball a little bit because it looked like I move a little bit quicker there. Mm-hmm. But then you have the time of rolling into the morph ball and then coming out of it. So, there's a little bit of time lost in there. True. Once you beat that boss, you get the Vera suit.
The Varia suit.
And go ahead.
I'm saying the Varia suit protects you from anything really hot. So the hot environments, lava environments. If you take a dip in lava, it's not going to help you.
Yeah. But and then so after that you don't have to go back here, but this is something I kind of just found is if you go back to the Talon overworld, now that you have I think you just need the missiles and the morph ball. Maybe just the missiles. Morph ball, okay. Mm-hmm. You find this little area with it's like a I don't know how to describe it, like a ritualistic scene here or something with a bunch of pillars with concentric circles, and you learn a little bit about these artifacts. And if you are keen on, or you're privy to the lore, you will realize that the artifacts were something that did the Chozo create the artifacts and position them for the intent of keeping the meteor stuff where it was, and then the space pirates were basically trying to collect them to unlock that? Is that right?
Yes. So after Talon 4 was basically, the meteorite landed, corruption spread, they knew something really bad was down there, so they basically used their magic, or not magic, their technology to seal the impact crater, and it was they spread those artifacts around, and the different lore entries of the Chozo specifically mention, like, there will be one who will come and retrieve the artifacts, and they're like in our visions, because they had foresight, they're like, in our visions we see it's a human, and at one point they're like it's a female. So it's really cool.
So a couple of artifacts will be and so you can scan some of the ruins at that point, at least, but you can't scan all of them. And I don't know how, do they unlock over time? I'm not sure. But I think I could only scan 8 of them, and I had to come back later on to get the rest of them. In any case, those, when you scan them, they say there's a little bit of a hint, and it says, hey, we've placed this artifact in a giant temple, and then giant temple would be in green or something like that. And so that's a clue that there's probably a room called Giant Temple. I don't think that's an actual clue, but you get the idea. It's just there's I think one is the sunroof or sunlight or something like that, and there just so happens to be a sunroom that you can go there. So
which
it gives
is
you
where
a little bit of a
Flagra
clue.
is.
Yes, yeah, we'll go back there. Actually, I don't think we will in the video. In any case, it gives you a little bit of clue as to where to find these 12 artifacts. And I want to talk a little bit about the hint system, because the hint system doesn't work for the artifacts, but for the majority of the game, the crit path till you get the artifacts, there's this hint system, which I found was very, very useful, because they would let you play for about 15 minutes, kind of explore, and then it would say, hey, have some sort of lore reason of why you needed to go there, like unusual gravity readings detected,
Right,
and you'd hit the Z button, and it would go to your mini map, or it would go to the map, it would kind of zoom out, show you, and then pan over to the area you need to go, zoom in, and be like, all right, there's something here, and put a big question mark on it. So I think that was actually really helpful for me, and also it makes the video, easier to understand where I'm going, because I added all that in. So we should be able to say, okay, yeah, we're going to the what is this place called? The Phendrana
Drifts. Yeah.
Drifts, yeah. So that was the next place we got on the hint system.
And I think it was the perfect level of hints for a game like this. Like, you need to go over here, but you have no clue how you're going to get there.
And much later in the game, there is much to my chagrin, I think it's in the mines, you go down to what looks like, just next door, I can, that I need to go in here. But no, you have to go this long way around, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is brutal. Yeah.
So I played mostly with the hints off until I got stuck. And then I would turn it on, and then it'd be like, okay, cool. So it was helpful for me to just make sure that I was going to the right places or whatever. Yeah. Just to save me time in that aspect.
Did you generally find that you were going to the right places, or how did you feel like that? Like your natural...
I think with Metroids in general, early on, there's not many wrong places. There will be spots that are obviously like, oh, okay, I need another item to get here. But then once I get kind of fully explored, and then I'm like, okay, now I don't know where to go. Those are points where I do a lot of backtracking, but the hint system helped a lot with that.
Yeah, sometimes it's very obvious, because it's like, you get the wave beam, and you can see, because wave beam opens up a purple door, and then it's like, you look at all the purple doors on the map, and they're all articulated. But this is one that isn't really obvious, because we just got the boost ball from the drifts, Phendrana Drifts, or however you pronounce it. And there's no indication on a map that's like, here's a half pipe. And so that's one
Tony
where...
Hawk's Pro Skater icon, like skateboard icon or something.
Maybe they should have.
Samus could do a kickflip 720.
That's a good cross-branding opportunity.
Yeah, right.
So this is one where it clearly says, hey, there's a half pipe configuration here. And I'm curious, Lobos, did you happen to find that, or did you
This was the first time where I was like, I'm not sure where to go. And I think this is where I turned on the hint system, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, it's actually kind of cool, because the place that has the morph ball is the place you go back to that has the half pipe configuration. So,
different.
Is that right? Or am I? That's a different area.
That's in the overworld.
But you do have to go back through that room later on. I think it's to get was that to get one of the artifacts?
I think it was an artifact. Yeah. So I might have skipped ahead a little bit. Yeah, we got this space jump boot from somewhere. We had to use the half pipe to go somewhere to get the space.
It was right behind where we landed.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. And this is, for some reason, I feel like this is more of an iconic ability than the morph ball, just for my own lore, because it's like, all right, now I can actually play the game. When you have single jump, it just, everything feels so, I don't know, not right. But once you get that, you're like, good. Now I have a little bit more mobility, a little bit more control over my,
Yep.
Exactly. Yeah, that control is a big thing that you get. Because one of the things in this game, you guys had mentioned that the controls were a bit difficult. You can only strafe when you're locked onto something or whatever, but you can just hold down your L button, which normally would lock on. You don't lock onto anything, but it allows your character to not only strafe, but you can make strafing jumps in the air. So you can jump left around something, then immediately jump back to the right. There's a fair amount of skips in the game that you can do doing that. That you can get some items quite early.
Nice.
See, I didn't know you could do that, but once you told me, I did find that jumping was just a little bit easier. I was like, oh, that's nice.
Yeah, once you get the omnidirectional jumping, it makes the platforming, especially the late game platforming, tolerable.
Yeah, so
No,
my issue originally was that with the emulator setup I was using, I couldn't by default strafe while holding the L button down. So I had to fix that in the settings. Once I got that was better, but there's still a discrepancy where if you're locked onto a target, you can do the side dash, but if you're locked onto nothing and just holding down L, then you can't side dash, and that made that discrepancy kind of messed me up in certain scenarios.
Well, talking about getting messed up, we're fighting a boss that he's a little challenging if you don't read the lore. He kind of gatekeeps the wave beam. Who's got the good strats on this one? I think it's a pretty simple fight once you figure it out, but it's not super obvious.
Go ahead, Lobos.
What's his name? I don't remember his name.
I don't think he has a name.
Oh, okay. A big ice beast with a huge jaw. And yeah, he would charge you. He would spew breath at you. But he would do a lot of abilities, and then whenever he finished, he would kind of sit there and be tired. And it was during those points you could shoot a missile, you could shoot a charge beam, I think, and damage him. And then later on, you'll find him later, but you've got a stronger weapon. You can just shoot him whenever, which is nice.
I think the lore also says you can use the morph balls to.
Oh yeah, you can also bomb him underneath. I remember reading that, and I was like waiting for him to like lift up or flip over, but yeah, you just got to
kind of risk it.
Yeah.
The tricky thing about him, and maybe Alamaxia can confirm, but I think these ice crystals on his back, if you shoot beams at him normally, those like charge up his ice crystals, and then he can use those to like unleash an attack. So you kind of have to time your attacks. I think that might be the first enemy you can't really, or like shooting him constantly will actually hurt you.
Yeah. The crystals absorb beam attacks, and they'll also absorb your missiles. So if you shoot him enough, then he gets a really big, strong attack. As long as you wait for the out of breath, it's straight up simple fight.
And we got the wave beam. This is a cool little ditty, especially against those space pirates with the jetpacks that we'll find here. But this kind of your electrical attack. I think it might. Does it do less damage than the other weapon?
It does. It does less damage than your power beam, but it stuns.
Yeah. It stuns them, which is nice. It kind of electrifies them.
Yeah.
But of course, it opens up purple doors. So now we have a new set of areas available to us, and we are heading over to the research core. So this is kind of an area that the space pirates have set up to do some researching. And again, I expressed to you, Alamaxia, that I wasn't expecting to enjoy the lore of the game as much as I did, but I actually really found it compelling, and I wanted to read the entries. So maybe it's a good time for a lore update. Walk us through like what's happening here, and what we're doing, and what the deal with the Chozo. Like, are they gone or are they still here? What's up?
So the Chozo are gone, and we touched on this earlier, but the pirates are researching Talon 4, and they're researching the phazon within it in order to try to breed a new super pirate, like a super-powered pirate. But they've used data that they've gathered from Samus, from the previous games, in order to try to mimic Samus's abilities. Like
Wait, were they reading my save files? Is that how they were doing it?
No, but they develop all of Samus's different beams, and they infuse it into some of the space pirates, so that space pirate can only be damaged by that particular beam, which is an awesome thing. And we really didn't talk much about space pirates themselves and when they come out. So whenever there's space pirates in the room, the music becomes like this. Starts out really creepy, and then
very frantic.
It just really builds, and it gets just really, oh god, it's like I know they're out there. And the space pirates themselves, they're nothing to take too trivially. They will attack, and they will attack hard. They shoot very quickly. They will dodge your charge attacks if you're too far away. And if you get enough gang up on you, they'll quickly start knocking down your health.
Yeah, they'll rush you too, which can be real rough if you're trying to switch beams or you're trying to do charge shots and you're waiting for it to charge up. I had one like clip from my playthrough where I was not too far away from a pirate and he side dodged me for like literally 30 seconds straight while I was shooting him, and I'm just like, okay, this time. Very evasive.
That's one where you want to get up right up in his face and just stick the gun in the barrel in his mouth. I don't think we covered, but just in case we didn't, you mentioned the phazon. Phazon is this
blue radioactive
potent
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that came down from the meteor, right?
Yes.
So it's like this thing crashed down, and the Chozo are like, this is bad, and it's making us go mad, which, by the way, I think we'll see that a little bit later.
It wasn't making the Chozo go mad. It was corrupting the world, the plants, the wildlife, and killing the Chozo. So most of the Chozo left, and those that remained just tried to save it, leave a message for the one.
The one. So we got a bunch of stuff queued up. I just want to blast through it real quick. We saw the first Metroid. That's a big iconic moment. Little jellyfish guy. Everyone knows what Metroids are. I don't think they break out yet, but spoilers, they will. And then you go into in trying to unlock the next power up, which is the thermal beam. I think you have to basically shut down power to the research station, and that has the effect of making the lights all dark. And so this thermal vision is the thermal visor. Thank you. Is the next power up, which gives you this infrared way to see, and you can kind of maneuver around the now dark research core with that. And then boom, you get to this next boss, Thardas. This is actually a really cool fight, and you basically use this thermal vision to identify its weak spot. You can blast that a couple times, and it kind of does like, I think, the legs and the arms, and then finally the chest. So I think there's like 5 total spots you have to blow up. Oh, and then we get another power up, and this is the
spider ball.
Let's see what this is. The spider ball. Yeah.
What's
the spider ball do here, Lobos?
Oh, the spider ball lets you attach to magnetic rails around the world, which is pretty cool because it lets you go up onto ceilings, up walls, and places you couldn't normally get. So more ways to progress. I was going to say that Thardas was like the first experience where I really was feeling not being able to side dash, because when he'll turn into a ball and roll like at you in this room and roll a couple times.
It's a big boy too.
And for whatever reason, they decided when he's a ball, you can't lock onto him at all, which means you can't side dash. So then I was like, well, I just want to side dash, and then I would dodge him. So that was I had
morph ball and boost away.
Yeah, morph ball, I guess. I don't want to put too much stress.
But then
on
again,
Samus,
it always takes like a half a second to go into that morph ball, so you're kind of stun locked there. So it's a little bit of a challenge there. All right, so we got another hint here. It's telling us there's abnormally low weather temperatures at the ruins, and that's in the Chozo ruins, right? And let's talk a little bit about this area, because this was a hard gate for enough power-ups. You know which area I'm talking about here, Alamaxia?
Yes, this is a tower that you have to blow all the supports out of to get the tower to progressively crumble down. And at the very top, you get a nice little upgrade for your wave beam. It something that makes some things a bit easier, especially if they're susceptible to that type of attack.
Yeah. This is what is the name here? Wave Buster. So this basically allows you to, all right, so let's talk about the energy shot. So you can just mash on the energy shot. I think that's the name. And then you can hold it for the charge shot. And then you can also, if you hold it down and you have a charge shot and then you shoot a missile, it does like a charge missile or something, right?
It does a beam that will...
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, for your charge, or for your power beam. Yeah.
Yeah.
For the power, yeah. So the wave beam and all the other subsequent weapons, you will get the ability to just mash on the fire button. You can do the charge, but you can't do the missile, the charge missile, until you find the upgrade for that. So the wave, what did we call this? The wave something?
Wave Buster. Yeah.
Wave Buster, thank you. That's what I thought, but I'm like, that can't be right. That sounds silly. The Wave Buster is that upgrade that allows you to effectively use your thing in charge missile mode. And I found it extremely useful because what it does is it almost does this Ghostbuster style electric thing,
tether,
right? And tether, and it takes a missile every like half second, but man, it does a ton of damage to things that are susceptible to it. So really loved it.
We just got done fighting, in my opinion, one of the first actual hard enemies, the Ghost Chozo. What you guys think of that one?
I
just kind of spammed fire.
Well, I think, I don't know if I first encountered him here, but there's one room that I retraversed so much with a tree in the middle and water and platforms, and they kept showing up. And it took me I did it like 5 times before I realized you can just go through the room and just open the door.
Walk past them.
Walk past. But by that point, I was already frustrated with these guys. So I lock on, I shoot a super that would do 1 hit and then 1 charge, and they would be dead. And
super missiles are very underrated, and I didn't use them too much when I was younger. This time I liberally used them, and they were they can take some stuff out that normally takes a long time.
Yeah, we just got the ice beam. Go ahead.
I wanted to mention that it's interesting because I think at this point, the transition to 3D and maybe on, I don't remember if any of the other handhelds were made between Super Metroid and this. But
there was, it was Metroid Fusion on the GBA.
Then maybe Fusion started it. But basically where instead of super missiles being a whole different type of missile, they would just consume 5 of your regular missiles.
Right.
And so that was a big change for me that I had to kind of get used to with these later Metroids. And I don't know which one I prefer, but, I guess I started with Super Metroid Super Missiles, so that one's got a special place in my heart. But
now,
of course,
you mentioned Fusion. Even though Fusion was released after this game, Fusion is actually the precursor in lore. So this takes place immediately after Fusion. Because in Fusion, they were researching Samus's armor, and that's where all that came from. Their attempts of recreating Samus.
Oh, that's right. And you can hook up your your
Game Boy Advance.
With Game Boy Advance, yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
hook it up to it and unlock the Fusion suit.
And you can also play the original Metroid, which is so cool.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool.
I love dumb things like that because I don't know how you'd link it. I don't know if you need a special piece of hardware.
It was a special cable.
Link cable.
Yeah,
special.
Dude, the age of link cables from that was good. All right.
Let's talk about the gravity suit here. This is. I almost look at Metroid as a bunch of frustrations and then things to alleviate those frustrations. And so one of the frustrating things was jumping in water or moving in water because you moved really slow and you couldn't jump very high. But the gravity suit eliminates that penalty, I think, completely. And so now we're able to access a couple areas that require you to jump higher underwater.
And with each suit you get, I believe it also reduces the damage you take.
Oh, yeah, probably.
Generally,
Is there a way to beat this game without getting any of the suits, Alamaxia? Because I know you said that there's like skips and stuff. Are you aware of anything like that?
No, you have to have the suits. Like if you have at least, I think, six energy things, you can go from Magmor to Phendrana without the various suit.
Oh, nice.
It's hard as hell, but you're taking tons of damage the entire time.
Yeah.
But I know, especially once you get into the Phazon stuff, it has accelerating damage, so it will very quickly eat through your health.
Well, we have made it to the mines here, and boy, the mines.
Phazon mines.
That's
mines!
A thing, huh? That's a level. Alamaxia, I kind of walked you through my progression as I was playing. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm going to the mines now. And you said something like, yippee, or something like that. And I was like, what, is that a good yippee?
I think it was like a have fun.
Have fun.
The mines are... It's arduous. It is... You have to go a very long time without save stations, and you have to go through some pretty difficult fights. the Phazon mines are the most difficult area of the game by far. And I honestly think that your first dive down into it here is probably the hardest point in the game. Just
We're
because
talking about difficult fights, because this is the first of those. And do you want to walk us through like what this is all about?
So this is a space pirate elite. This guy has a launcher on the back of him that'll shoot at you, and he also will put up this little like shield looking thing. It looks like sound waves, and it'll absorb all of your attacks. So you can only attack him whenever he's not doing that. Which the easy way to fight him is 2 super missiles and he's dead.
Yeah.
See, I did the Wave Buster, and it was pretty easy. But this one I want to talk about because I was playing for like 45 minutes. You said there's not a lot of save spots.
Yeah.
I couldn't find any. I was like freaking out. I did a Hail Mary here. I have no idea what this is. So first of all, you go into this little, it looks like a circular energy grid thing. And there's this invisible machine that's shooting you. And in retrospect, I'm guessing you can probably see him with the thermal vision. Is that right?
Nope. It is intended to be invisible because this is a mini boss fight.
All right. So I was freaking out. I was dead. Like, you know, when you see you have no E-tanks left and you see energy low, you're like, I'm done.
And you're hearing that warning beep.
So I did a Hail Mary. I charged up my Wave Buster, and I had 39 health left, and I just like, I'm gonna fire, and I got him in there.
Went around. Awesome. That went around the
and
pillar.
I was like, wait, that worked? And then, so what's really funny about this is after that boss fight, still no save spot. You have this little electrical grid you have to navigate very carefully with your spider or your morph ball, and this has probably got to be the slowest way to do this anyone has ever done, because there's electricity everywhere and you have to go down these narrow little corridors, and I'm like, I'm not going through all that again. And I did take a little bit of damage there, but I did eventually get to the end of this, and you have to blow up maybe you just have to touch it. No.
Yeah, you just grab
you
them.
Acquire the power bombs.
The power bombs, and then I was like, all right, please give me a save spot. And you know they did, but that was one I was like, oh, this game is. I think I even said, Alamaxia, I'm like, this game is going to give me a heart attack with no save stations.
Yeah, that is a rough spot. It puts you to the test, and rightfully so, because the rest of the game is more of a combat thing, because you have to get into some very tough fights that you have to fight many enemies at a time, switch your beams constantly.
Yeah.
Switch your visors.
It's kind of a gear check and a skill check. Like, do you have enough missiles? Do you have enough energy tanks?
I had a gear check. The skill check, I wasn't quite there yet, which kind of upset me because I saw Lobos. And I think Lobos came out of that fight with like 5 E-tanks.
Well,
still.
no, I actually died to that fight the first time I got
you did?
there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had to go all the way back. It took me like 30 minutes to get back there or something like that.
Isn't that rough? You
yeah,
gotta do
it was
that
rough.
again. And then not only that, but it's kind of like the completionist of me says, oh, I got to go scan all the lore again. And there's a ton of lore going all the way up there. So I'm like, jeez.
Yeah, I didn't do that. There were times where I died and I was like, I'll scan the important things. And that was it. So yeah.
Who got out of this room in less than 10 minutes? Because I think it took me about 10 minutes to figure out. Who wants to walk us like where we are and what we just got and what we got to do to get out of here? This is the Life Grove, right? We just picked up the X-ray scanner.
Oh, okay, yeah. I think this one... So, yeah, I mean, every time I got a new thing, I read, and the power bomb's like, effective against Bendesium or whatever, Bendesium this and that, and I was like, okay. So I started, every time I found like a scan that was like, effective against this, then I would look through all my weapons if I didn't remember. And then like,
I never remembered. I'm like, what is this material, and what? Just use all of them.
Yeah,
use the missile, use the charge missile, use this. But that was one where you drop into an area, you get the X-ray visor, and I think the intent is you're supposed to. Well, okay, yeah, you can scan the wall to blow it up, but I think the intent is you're supposed to use the X-ray visor and then see like, hey, if you blow up this wall, you can go past here. So that was kind of cool. Although I'd say, for me, like the X-ray visor in Super Metroid, super valuable. I think that's what they call. I don't know if they call it that, but whatever they call it, right?
X-ray scanner.
X-ray scanner. But in this one, I didn't find it super handy because it's very hard to do the depth perception. Did you guys use this a lot or not?
It's pretty close range, right? Like it drops off real quick and then you can't see too much.
Yeah.
I'm just glad I started this game and I was like, okay, it's a Metroid game. And I started looking at every like square foot of wall surface and I was like, do I need to shoot every single, to find a missile in a random block on a wall? But no, luckily they made it pretty easy. X-ray scanner was kind of my last resort if I didn't know how to get through a place or if I was looking for a particular entrance. But I kind of liked it. You would see that there was obviously something behind and that this wall was missing on the X-ray scanner vision.
And you could hear the power-up.
You can hear the power-ups, and that helped me much later. I kind of realized that, and then I just started sound hunting. So, yeah.
I guess for me, when I was playing Super Metroid, you'd like run around everywhere and scan everything, regardless. And whereas it was in this game with the X-ray visor is very much like, okay, I am purposefully looking here because I hear something or I think I'm stuck in this area. So it's less of like, okay, going through every room with it and more about like targeted searches.
Yeah, something's shooting at me and I can't see it on thermal or regular vision. So that was the other way.
It's the thing that allows you to see the ghost chozos, which makes them easier.
Yeah, which I don't think I even did. I learned that way late. But then they still zoom around, so like you'll have to wait for them to stop, and so I was like, okay, whatever. It wasn't that big of a deal, but yeah.
My favorite weapon.
Oh,
the plasma
it's a good
beam.
Weapon.
Plasma.
You know what I really loved was the process of getting to the plasma beam had this really cool. It was like a 3D, not necessarily a puzzle, but 3D traversal for the spider ball form. And so you had to kind of go around all the walls and you had to go up them and down them and and bomb up and down in them. So it's like this really 5-minute long thing. And when you get to the end, boom, you got the best weapon in the game, in my opinion, and apparently Alamaxia's opinion.
Oh, yeah. Because it can one-shot the flying space pirates. That's like, like the biggest reason.
Because up to that point, I would use charged ice, but they would dodge it so much, right? And then... And then charge ice and then missile, and then it'd be good. But yeah, plasma beam just takes the cake.
Lobos, no, as someone that's played this for the first time, we just got to a spot where you have to use the X-ray vision to see these platforms that are moving back and forth. Did you figure that out right away, or did you have to take a little bit of time to kind of explore that area?
I don't remember exactly if there was something that clued me off, but when I found it, I was just like, I think I was like yelling at Miyazaki of From Software, and I was like, you stole this from Prime. No, I'm just kidding.
But you can see the raindrops falling on the platform.
Oh, that's what I saw. Yeah, that's what I saw. And I scanned it, and I was like, yeah, good hint, good hint.
That was great.
Omega
Pirate, another boss fight here. It's very similar to the past bosses, but Lobos, do you want to talks about how you did this guy?
He's essentially like a super version of the pirate elites we talked about earlier. He's got a couple of lock points. He's kind of like a space pirate elite mixed with Thardus, because you lock onto his legs, you take out the legs, you take out the shoulders.
So you can really see the culmination of the space pirate research here.
Yeah, and you scan him, and it says like he can go invisible, and then he'll try and I think regain energy from the phazon on the ground, so you know what's coming. But then he'll spawn space pirates that you have to deal with while he's doing this.
And those are the ones you have to hit with a specific color too.
I honestly just ignored them for a while.
Yeah,
I think
good choice.
And just focused on keeping the pressure on the boss, and that ultimately led me to victory there. I don't remember what I think I used super missiles on him.
Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of health, and I will say some of the bosses here are quite tanky. I think, it was not unusual to have a boss fight that was 5 to 10 minutes long, for me at least. So even though you know what to do, there's still the act of actually doing it. And a lot of times, I think what the challenge is, you have to wait for them to do a thing before you can do your thing. So it's like, this guy in particular, if you can't shoot while he's absorbing his shots, so you kind of have to just dodge around there.
And it seemed like there were points where I would like he wouldn't be absorbing, and I would shoot like at his shoulder or something, and it just wouldn't register. And I wasn't sure if there was like, you had to wait for him to stop attacking to do it or what.
It was whenever he goes to attack, if you shoot him too early in the animation, then he'll switch back and block your attack. Like whenever he goes into like does the ground pound, electric goes out. Yeah, if when he's still raising his arms, you attack, he'll block it.
I did like the ground pound mechanic. I always love a first person
cool.
like jump over waves coming at you mechanic. It's fun to do.
Well, that's the last real upgrade that it is intended, I think, for you to get, and you get the what was the suit? I missed
Phazon suit.
Phazon suit. So this allows you to walk around in Phazon, and that's important because you need that to get to an artifact. But at that point, you basically are on your own. You're like, all right, you could have collected some of these artifacts up until now, but at this point, it's like, all right, you have to go backtrack to all these other areas, power up yourself, get some new stuff now that you've unlocked a bunch of abilities, and get these 12 artifacts and bring them back here. And we see a friendly person here.
It's our best
I always
friend.
love to see Ridley, right?
Our best friend Ridley.
Yep. Meta Ridley.
But it's Meta Ridley. Yeah. All right. Now I loved the first 2/3 of this fight and absolutely hated the last third of the fight. Alamaxia, though, for some of this beat it 10 times, I want to know, like, how do you deal with this fight effectively?
Well, this first part is, it's very straightforward. You just attack him. He'll eventually swoop across the platform, just kind of like a bombing run. Watch where he goes, and then just try to get on the other side of the platform. And he'll do that a few times, and you gotta, super missile. Sometimes he'll land on the platform and scream at you, swipe couple times, but overall you just do this like you said for about the first 2/3 of the fight, and after
the funny thing is, real quick, I just want to say I got flashbacks of Bomberman here with one of the bosses where
that dragon boss.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, please continue, Alamaxia.
No, and after you do enough damage, then his wings will burn off and he's stuck to the ground, and then you have to fight the hard part of him, which is he's speedy. Space Pirates gave Ridley some upgrades, and he is fast. We have dealt with bosses that have charged at us, but this is the first one that you really have to time it just right.
Yep. This is one of those that I felt the controls were actively working against me. How did you feel about that, Lobos?
Yeah, it's fast-paced, so a lot of times you need to lock to do like your side dash to dodge or whatever, and it wouldn't play out in the way you want. And after he does a charge, he does a tail swipe, so until you realize that, you're not going to kind of make space from him. The first part of the fight was like one E-tank maybe, and then I got down to like one E-tank left with this phase.
Exactly, we'll see that. Just, for people watching the video, I cleared the first part with just 2 E-tanks, and I think I have like 10 here.
And you still only have 2 E-tanks left, and Ridley is at like 10%.
Yeah, right.
And now Ridley's at 1%, he's at 1 E-tank.
It's ridiculous, right?
It is a hard fight.
I think it took me 1 or 2 fights to kill this, or actually 2 fights to kill this guy.
Even as someone that has played it many times and fought him, knows all the tricks, I still got knocked down to like 3 E-tanks.
Thank you for making stroking my e-gamer ego here.
The dodge, his charge is that hard to dodge, and whenever you get hit when you're locked on, you lose that lock on. So if
plus
you
the
didn't
screen
dodge
goes all like white, and you're like
you
blinded.
Do like this, blinding. Yeah.
So after you defeat Ridley here, then
you go back and save because you don't want to do that again,
right? But then
I actually backtracked to save, but there is a save spot here.
But the ghosts of the Chozo rise up, and because you have the 12 artifacts, that they are able to unlock the crater where the meteor landed. Impact.
One little tidbit, I remember reading in the lore that the ghosts would appear to guard their artifacts, and so I made that connection. So whenever I saw ghosts, I was like, there must be a Chozo artifact nearby. Because
wonder if
I
that's-
didn't do any artifact hunting until I was done with everything else. Then I went and I was like,
Really?
okay, now let's do artifact hunting, and yeah. So it took me a while to confirm that, but yeah, it's a cool little bit of lore there.
Mm-hmm.
So it is. Is it actually every single artifact had one guard, at least a guard, or?
I don't think they all had guards. Like there's
Yeah.
one in Magmore in a pillar you
Yeah, that's
shoot
right, with
out.
the
Like I don't
statue.
think that one had
Yeah.
ghosts, but a lot of them did have ghosts nearby.
Were there any in Magmore?
Yeah, the pillar. Remember?
No,
There's a
the
pillar-
Chozo ghosts.
Oh,
Ghosts. I don't
Chozo
think there were
ghosts.
any.
I don't think so. I don't
I don't think there are.
remember how
So
many.
before we get to the
artifacts
final boss here, I want to just walk us through. We found these. I don't know if they call them Super Metroids or
Fusion
were, but those were
Metroids.
Fusion
they were so. Oh my
Metroids.
gosh, they were so annoying
They
because
were
you
the
had to hit
worst.
them. You had to hit them with like a specific beam, and they'd split in two, and they'd infinite respawn. So what I did, I just ran through this area
Same.
as quickly as possible. A bunch of platforms you have to jump on. But I used super bombs, and that cleared out a
Yes,
lot of them.
power
When I
bombs.
found that, I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
there we go.
That was a saving grace, man, because
Mhm.
it's not the last time we're going to see those fusion Metroids. So
Well, I was expecting for an enemy named Metroid Prime, I was expecting a giant jellyfish, but I got something from a Breath of the Wild.
Starship
apparently.
Troopers. I don't know, man.
This is a
Oh, man.
Leviathan that traveled on the meteor from the planet Phase. And the space
Wow.
pirates dubbed it Metroid Prime as they were
Mm,
researching it.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well,
But
Again, it
this
really
is
does
what
look
brought
like
Phase
the-
on.
So okay. So he brought the face.
the planet
on.
Phase, huh?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's a
It's all
connection.
come together.
Yeah.
But this really does look like one of those artifact guys from Breath of the Wild. You know, the guys that have the
Guardians.
lock on. What the Guardians? Thank you.
Guardians.
So this, I'm gonna set us up to fight, and then I'll let you two walk us through how you execute it. But this basically has 4 different modes. It can do, just matching like your modes of fire. So it has like the lightning, ice, regular, and fire, or ice. I don't know. Did I say all 4?
Power,
said
ice,
5,
wave,
but yeah.
and plasma.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Power,
I
ice,
was
wave,
getting
plasma.
mixed up in my head here. Yeah, so there's a lot of phases here in this phase-on fight. I don't know. Who's got the best strats on this one?
Here, I'll start with mine, and then Alamaxia can narrow down any other strats. So, what I remember is he'll switch modes, and you have to use the correct beam on him, whatever color he is that matches. And after you'll shoot him enough, and then he'll eventually kind of get stunned and then he'll do like a charge across the arena, which took me a little bit to realize that there are these big trenches on the ground.
Yeah.
That you can just stand in, and he'll go over you and not hurt you.
Oh, I went to the morph ball. I didn't know if you had to do morph ball.
I've always morph balled. I've never
Okay,
tried
okay.
to walk through there.
I'd have to relook at it because I'm not sure if I did morph ball. But each phase has some brutal things. Most of them have some sort of beam. One of them has like really slow moving, like homing projectiles that can be really annoying. You have to shoot down. The ice, he'll do like a big ground icicles that come at you, and they'll also impair your vision. I think they might freeze you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they will.
There's a lot of attacks. that
Mash
do
the button to get
lot
out
of
of that
hits
freezing
here.
state.
This is definitely for me, it was the harder part of the fight.
Yeah,
And
I would agree on that.
yeah. And then you do it enough and he keeps falling down holes, and you're going down like kind of layers of underground. Eventually he falls down when he's out of health, quote unquote. Was there anything special to that part of the fight, Alamaxia, that I missed?
Nope, you hit it spot on.
Okay.
Everything, that's a strategy. It's just dodge. A lot of the stuff you could dodge. You focus on those little energy balls and it drops out, but dodge.
Dodge. A lot of dodging.
A lot of dodging.
And now we're fighting Metroid Prime, which, didn't we just fight them?
I love
Alamaxia,
this
do you want
part
to take
of
this
fight.
one?
I love this. So Metroid Prime is out of his armor, and you get to see him in his full gooey jellyfish glory.
Yeah.
And he's going around doing some attacks that are kind of familiar, like
mhm.
throwing some lightning on the ground. We've seen some elite pirates do that. And he's going invisible. We have to track him down with either the X-ray or the thermal.
Yeah.
And he'll also throw these pools of Phazon on the ground. It's like, I wonder what those do. Yeah. So if you stand in the Phazon, because he had the Phazon suit, it gives you this wonderful, wonderful boost called Hyper Beam. To which, when I was young, I'd get Hyper Beam, shoot at him, and just scream, "Ah!" Because it's the most satisfying thing, and I feel like this whole game is you get this beam, you lock onto this giant alien, and you chunk away like a quarter of its health.
Yeah. Hyper mode.
Now, it's been a while since I played Super Metroid. At the end of Super Metroid, did they also have like a hyper beam or something like that? You get a beam.
It's just, you basically get God mode, and it's another satisfying situation where you're shooting Mother Brain in Super Metroid, and her head's just flailing everywhere as you shoot her because it's so powerful. So they do it again. So there were a lot of cool little like throwbacks and similar designs that I was like, nice. That's a Metroid game, man. You know. But yeah, this was pretty cool.
So it's a pretty straightforward. It doesn't escalate too much. The only thing that happens is they start spawning some of those fusion Metroids, which, again, if you figured out that the smart bomb or the
power bombs, the
power bombs are the ones that will, kind of kill them. It makes it much easier to progress there. And that's it. Game over. I
will say there was one thing that was missing from this that I expected, which was, at this point, an escape sequence, which there is like a danger, everything's going to blow up, get away, but they just resolve it all through cutscene. I guess they didn't want you to be really low health on this boss fight and then die and then have to do it all over again or something, but
they kind of had the escape in the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, Super Metroid has an escape in the beginning as well, and in the end. So that's kind of what I was. That's usually how they begin and close in my very limited. I don't know. Maybe Fusion does the same thing. I don't know how many do it exactly that way. But
speaking of close, one very important little thing that just happened at the end of that boss is as Samus is getting ready to leave, the boss reaches out with like this Phazon spear and grabs the Phazon suit and rips it away from Samus. So Samus loses the Phazon suit.
Yes.
And if you 100% the game, you find out what happens to that Phazon suit.
What happens? Tell me.
Dark Samus rises from the Phazon. And that is whom becomes your next antagonist.
For Metroid Prime 2, right?
Corruption.
Ooh, nice.
Yep, and I've never played either of those, but I had heard of Dark Samus before. So I saw that and I was like, here we go. So
the Space Pirates had the initial research on Samus and created like their version of Dark Samus, and here is where the real Dark Samus comes out, and Dark Samus is a formidable foe.
All right, so maybe we'll see more of her in Metroid Prime 2, but that's gonna wrap up the first expedition here into the Metroid Prime world. And I completed this at 79%.
Nice.
Lobos, do you remember how far?
I think I was 88.
88. Oh, very nice. Very nice.
I think I was missing maybe like just a couple missile things. And then I probably missed out. If the scans required, I probably missed out on scans after I died and didn't rescan. But it's okay. I wasn't going for 100.
Awesome. Well, we got our Patreon credit screen up there, so thank you to everyone for supporting this episode. And all of 2022, all of 2023. We did get 2 new Patreons this week, so we got Eric Nelson and Steve Bereave. Thank you so much, getting us a little bit closer to that 25 goal of 25 supporters. We are at 23 right now, so 2 more.
Man, I mentioned it on stream today too, so.
Nice. For the less than the price of a Happy Meal, you can watch us play Earthbound, because that's what we'll be doing.
2-hour episode.
Yeah,
2 hours long, so that'll be great. Yeah. So closing thoughts from both of you. Let's start off with Alamaxia. What you got for me?
Nothing but hype. nothing but I love this game. I love it. I'm so happy that I went back and played it again now that I'm older and I could really appreciate the story. But also with the Dolphin emulator, I found out you can play this in VR with head tracking, and I'm totally going to do that.
Oh, cool. Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
It's really cool. Yeah. I've tried it once already, and it's like, oh my god.
Oh man, that's awesome.
How sick did you get, or was it okay?
It's actually all right.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, it's whenever you go into Morph Ball, it does third person instead of your screen doing barrel rolls, and you just go into like a little dark room and you just roll around.
That's awesome. I'll have to try that too. Yeah. Metroid Prime, it's another Metroid in a good way, and I very much enjoyed it. We didn't talk about it at all, but the music was super good, super good.
So good.
So,
still a couple...
which zone had your favorite music, and why was it Phendrana Drifts?
Well, that's the obvious pick, all right? That's the menu music when you're picking your save file is very memorable. That one jumps into my brain like all the time now. Yeah, Phendrana. Okay, all right. I'll say it. Phendrana's great. Magmore is, almost identical to Super Metroid's throwback. I think somebody said that it's like the same composer. I don't know if it's just one or if there was multiple that worked together, but it's really cool to bring that kind of into a newer game, and it evokes the same feelings and emotions of the past. So, loved it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I guess closing thoughts for me again. This game it had moments where I loved it. I had moments that I hated it, but I think overall I came out of it. I was like, that was a great experience. And, you have to kind of take this as a product of its time where it's like,
for sure,
this game moved Metroid to a 3D world for better or worse, and there was no precedent for it. So, I got to kind of give it a little bit of a pass on some of the control issues just because, they're trying to figure stuff out. So, it definitely made me excited for Metroid Prime 4 whenever that comes out.
If it comes out.
If it comes out. What is it going to be like with dual analog there? And I have played Corruption. Actually, I played 2 and 3. And 3 does make it a little bit easier with the Wiimote there and the controls there. So, yeah, great time. Glad I have that under my belt. But we've got a problem here, folks, because the next game, I have absolutely no way... I have no idea how to segue to it. I can't think of any funny puns or any, does anyone have any good segues for this one?
Well, as old as it is, we might need to fax it to each other.
Yeah, see, I was thinking that, but I'm like, is that a little too on the nose?
Maybe a new hairdo. So a fax and a do are what we need.
So we're going to be taking a look at Faxanadu on the Nintendo, going back to the NES. How long has it been since we did an NES game? A little bit, right? I can't remember which.
What was it?
Ninja Turtles? TMNT?
Yes, that's right.
Maybe.
So maybe not too long, maybe like 8 months or so.
Yeah.
This is one of those games I've played a bunch as a kid. I've played the first hour a bunch of a kid, just like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I've never beaten it, just like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles before we covered it. So this will be an experience for me. Lobos, I know you haven't played that, right? You haven't played it?
Not very much, if any. But
not very much, okay. And Alamaxia, I think you beat it once, right?
When I was a lot younger and with a walkthrough, so I remember it's like a fever dream. It's like I'll play it, it a little bit, and I'll see something, and I go, "Oh God, I thought I dreamt that." No, it's it's a game that I remember nothing about, like what the game plays like, or the bosses, or the lore. So it's going to be fun to actually go back to it and experience it.
Nice. I will say, make sure to go back and, or actually go look on the manual online there, because I really love the manual and the artwork. I think it just looks so great. For me, I guess this is one of the... This may be a little sacrilegious to say, but I feel like the manual is up there with the original Zelda manual, and just having all these real cool conceptual pieces of art there, and just aspirational items and stuff. So I just love it.
Manuals are great. Yeah,
take some time to look up the manual there
for sure.
I miss manuals. Bring back manuals.
Yeah, absolutely. Bring them back. Well, sadly, we have reached the end credits of this episode. And of course, we wanted to thank everyone for listening to us over the course of 50 episodes, even more if you consider Retro Oddities. But seriously, thank you so much. Excited. 2023, we got so many great things. So again, thank you so much for listening to us, watching us, and all that good stuff.
And make sure, listen to us on Google Play, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Follow us. And watch us on YouTube. We put the video of the game that we play. We put us overlaid on it, and we just chat about it, so you can actually see what we're talking about.
Exactly. If you have feedback, we'd love to hear back from you. You can email us at SaturdayMorningGamingShow@gmail.com.
Awesome. And hey, if you are listening to us on a platform that does allow you to rate us, please do so. And we just want to give a special shout out, as always, to TechnoWax for much of the music on this episode.
For Saturday Morning Gaming, I'm Alamaxia.
I'm Lobos.
And I'm the Fat Wizard. We'll see you in February with Faxanadu on the NES.
Bye!
See you next mission.